So hi everyone. This is our test automation meeting, which is happening on October 17, 2019. There are not many items on the agenda for today, but if there are any items that anyone wants to add or anyone wants to bring up, maybe we can add it after these three items on the agenda. So we can go ahead with the first item. Let me see if Andy is there. So the first item on the agenda is if you remember last week, we were talking about unification of BBSIM and pod test. So we wanted to have a single test that can run on BBSIM and also physical pod. So that activity has been completed, and we just wanted to just give you an update on a very brief update on this. If Andy is on the call, maybe Andy, do you want to just speak about it?
Hi, Sue Teacher. Yes, I'm here.
I can bring up this case.
Okay, perfect. Right. So just to refresh people's memory, um, in the Volta system tests repository, there used to be two robot files that were two versions of basically the same test, just bringing up the OLT and ONU and doing authentication, DHCP, and ping. But one of these robot files was written to only work with BBSIM, and the other one was written to work with the physical pod. So we spent some time merging these into a single file using the physical pod test as the template that we were merging into. But now it will work also with BBSIM. And the way that we accomplished that was one, creating a pod configuration file for BBSIM that looks like a configuration file for a physical pod containing all the information about the various components. Except for BBSIM, most of these things are nulled out because it doesn't have, say, real client and real like real RG and real BNG. It's all emulated stuff. So we have this configuration file here that has the information for BBSIM, and then we also have the test file itself where we've gone through and customized the physical test to null out things that don't apply to BBSIM. So if you look at, say, line 63 here, the step that runs EA poll. So BBSIM, you don't run this step because it automatically starts its own EA poll process. And so we have this run keyword if has data plane validate authentication, run the WPA supplicant. And so in the BBSIM configuration, has data plane is set to false because it's BBSIM is only control plane, so that step won't be run. And likewise down here for the validate DHCP and ping, since there's no data plane. I think that's a basic summary of what we did to these tests to get it working. So teacher, can you think of anything else that we should highlight?
I think that should be good enough. There are these new parameters that have been added. If you see that has data plane and external libs, there are certain libraries that we want to import only for physical part because we are doing a validate DHCP and validate authentication, and then these libraries are coming from Code Tester, which is as part of SIBA framework, and these we are importing as only when when we set that attribute accordingly, that parameter accordingly, whether we want to import it on the physical pod and not import it on the BBSIM whenever we want to run the test. And these are the new attributes to just make sure that when you're running the test case, in case you want to override these parameters, you can just run through it by and when you're executing the test case, you can just override these attributes accordingly. Yeah, I think that is all I can add. And the rest of the test case is as is, except whatever Andy has talked about.
So what happens if you import those libraries in a BBSIM based test?
So if you set that to true, then you need to check out the cord tester repository and the Voltha repository at the same level as the Voltha system tests repository. So the reason I stuck that in there is because I thought for developers and also for the existing pipeline tests that we have right now, it's really nice if the BBSIM test is self-contained to the Voltha system test repository. It doesn't assume that you also have these other repositories checked out at specific place in your code tree. So then if you set that to false, you don't need to have those other repositories. I think this is something that we should revisit because it seems a little, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the right design is here.
Yeah, I think there is one case where we want to eliminate, let's say maybe the card tester is fine, but because this is the system test framework that we have developed, and there are also some other tests as part of Volta repository, but this is the old Volta repository, and then we had been using to access the Volta CLI tools, and there had been some libraries that were written as part of the old Volta repo. So that's the reason we have it. But Andy and myself, we thought that maybe in future we should refactor this code and then and add it to one of the system test frameworks so that we can just utilize this and maybe not use the older repos at all going forward. So that way we are eliminating, the dependencies of more repos.
Okay, so these issues they show up in the document that you're writing, Andy, about how to write a test kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, they will. They're not there yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we will add whatever is required, definitely, and then things to do at the end of the document, refinement and refactoring cases as well. So we can discuss further on those and then take up accordingly.
Okay, thanks.
So any other questions from anyone regarding this item about unification? Okay, sounds like good. Yeah, the next item I just put is about the status updates. I know that Infosys also started working on some of the test cases. Probably this is a good meeting where if anybody is stuck with anything or if you have any clarifications that Infosys wants to bring up or even Atran, if they are just getting started and if there are any showstoppers right now, we can talk about them. And given that, if from Infosys, anybody wants to give an update?
Okay, well, maybe this is a good time for me to bring up my issue.
Yeah.
So because of this unification and the testing and all that, I have two questions or two things that I need to have defined. So my test there's twofold. There's more in-depth testing involved. So there's more flow testing, port testing, and some of the peer testing. Okay, so I validate all that. So that's one thing. The other thing is I do it across well, it's just the BB sim, of course, but it probably can be adapted to a real pod as well. But more so, it's for BB sim. I'm testing with 16 ONUs. So I'm wondering how to adapt my test into the the system test tree.
So, Gil, can you clarify on 16 ONUs exactly what you are going to do? Is it not just authentication and all these steps, or what do you mean by
Yes,
clarify?
but I go into more in-depth testing that what is currently covered into what was called a sanity test. So, for example, for the ports, I ensure that the NNI, all the ports are of the right class and all that. So that's what I do for ports and for flows. Um, well, for the moment, I mean, it's more account things. So I make sure there are flows, for instance, or that there are not flows in the case where there shouldn't be any. And in the case of the peers, so there's an element in the logical device where it lists all its peers, and I want to make sure that that lines up with each of the ONUs that are ONU devices that are listed. So it's more, there's more coverage that I do,
More.
which which lines up with what was being done on the 1.x testing that I had going.
Okay, so this is like more functional coverage of
Yes, more coverage. Yeah, more in-depth coverage. Yeah, that I plan to do. So that's the one aspect, and the other aspect is I'm doing it across 16 ONUs.
right.
So I need to know where my stuff will line up, because I had a review going, but all this kind of breaks whatever code that I had going. So I'll have to do an update, but I need to know where my stuff should go. Like there's functional testing, and that's where I had lined up my stuff. So into the functional folder, and with a functional robot test. But that doesn't line up with what there is now. So I was thinking more like, should there be like a stress test folder?
I think
You know,
sorry. So whatever test that you have mentioned,
yeah.
in-depth coverage, they certainly fall under functional tests, and
Mhm.
and I hear some crosstalk. If people can mute, that would be great.
Okay. Okay. Maybe I'll see if Gilbert is available. Maybe.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is the whatever Gil you have mentioned is more of a functional coverage, especially the steps that are involving in them.
Mhm.
And then they should be going in this test case as a different scenario. I guess
So I don't think it's a different scenario. Jill is still doing the same things, but he's looking for more things on the CLI, right? He's looking for things like ports that we don't look at, right? He's looking for a flow count that we don't look at, right? The scenarios are still the same. It's still EAPOL, DHCP, and pings, right? But he's
yes,
doing it on a more ONUs, and he's looking for things that we are not looking at.
yes, I would agree.
So
But what I'm sorry, what I want to try to say is right now the tag whatever we put here is sanity, And if we want to include all those scenarios, I mean, all those validation steps as part of sanity, then it's fine. But my suggestion would be that we would create another scenario here just below this, and then the tag would be functional there. And then in that functional, we can add more and more steps, more in-depth coverage. And it's totally fine to add it in the same, but it's just that sanity is usually like just testing at a sanity level. And then if we are using this particular test for running some path set verification, maybe the test should be a little faster and then run at a high level verification should be performed. So that is the reason I'm saying that probably the more in-depth validation should go as part of functional, creating more scenarios in this same file and then tag them as functional. And then we can add more and more, because whatever we have added is just a very basic functionality, but there are so many other validation steps we still haven't covered as part of ONOS verifications. We haven't done validation of Voltha, let's say flow sports, we haven't done those yet. And after that, there are certain other validations, such as, like, let's say, once the Volt subscriber has been added, we have to do some validations after those. So those are all skipped as part of this. We are just doing a very high level verification. So my suggestion would be to create another similar scenario, but going through more functional, in-depth test, and then tag them as functional. If That's my suggestion. So but if you guys, if everyone thinks that, oh, sanity should cover more than this, then maybe we can talk about those.
Okay, so like you say, what it involves is tagging my tests and adding them to this functional file,
uh,
functional robot test file.
yeah, this one, because we are
Yeah.
using this particular test, and it will go below this,
Mm-hmm.
and then add a tag as functional, and then whatever in-depth verification, other steps that you want to write, I would encourage you to write a keyword for each of these verifications in the libraries, and then
Mm-hmm.
we can use them here when we call the test.
Okay, so that's one thing for the addressing the in-depth or the more test coverage. But what about, if I do it for 16 ONUs, that, the setup has to be different. The make files, and there's 16 ONUs in the pipe, and how's that going to work?
Yeah, so for the 16 ONU case, I'm going to send out a patch today on the same test case to make it parameterized particular tests, because where we are talking about number of ONUs, if you see this, it talks about
Yeah, yeah.
ONUs, and the
Mhm.
default is set to 1.
Yeah,
And then you can override it when you are executing the test. And let's say
yeah.
in your case it's 16, so then it would be running that many times. And then the other
But
important,
what about kind Volta? I mean, that
yes,
has all to be done beforehand.
yeah, so I was just going to go there. So if you see this,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
BBC kind, the one which Andy has developed, so
Mm-hmm.
in a similar manner, you would have to write for your ONUs, define your ONUs here, all the 16 ONUs, so that
Yeah.
the test can use that. So
Um, okay, that's one aspect. What about the status? Okay, so I have a status file that will have 16 ONUs defined in there as well.
yeah, so the SAD is also we usually, this is an example for SADIS example on a pod, and we create this SADIS configuration and put it in the data file, and then this
Mm-hmm.
is loaded when we are building the pod. So and as per your test case, you would have to just call this as part of your, when you're setting up the when you're before you start the test case, just do a curl command.
Yeah, because you're loading yours it's the example one that gets loaded as part of kind Volta. Whereas mine, I was loading it, separately as part of the test.
Right. So for that, the best way to do is you would
Yeah.
in the test case there would be a keyword to post the status configuration, and then
Okay.
you would use similar something similar,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
and then
Okay. I think I have.
just do that before you do your, because as part of the setup you could do it.
Yes, exactly. Which is where I was doing it. In my
Oh,
test.
okay. Yeah. So or you could just do it as part of setup and then run a keyword, and then
Yeah.
if the number of ONUs are greater than that, then just load that particular file, and then you can override that at
Okay.
parameter as well as part of your test.
Okay. All right. I think I have. Yeah. I have understand. What to do.
Yeah,
So
but
that should be good.
okay. Yeah. So Andy, do you have any other suggestions or approach? Do you think?
I think that's good. My only thought was that for the status configuration, it would be nice if kind Volta just natively supported bringing up um, Volta and BBSim with however many ONUs you want. So maybe that status configuration change could be contributed upstream to kind Volta.
You mean when you are deploying it, when you're
Right.
installing it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that is an easy way actually. That's much that solves the problem.
Um, who's going to change the kind Volta stuff? Is that upon David or?
Yeah, I guess David is the maintainer for kind Volta. So, but
Mhm.
we
But
could contribute a patch, a pull request.
Mhm.
but we could always overwrite it, right, when we are installing it as well.
Sure, that's the other option, to just not install the default, the example status config and just
Exactly.
explicitly push our own
Yeah,
in,
and
Exactly.
say,
Mhm.
in say the Jenkins job.
Yeah, because there might be all different kinds of status files going forward. Because when you're testing tcon and whatever else, that the gem ports, I could see that there could be various types of status files, and you don't expect the kind Volta to be able to load all those. It's part of the test, I think.
Right, that's a good point. For my own convenience, I would like to be able to specify just a random number of ONUs to kind Volta and have it just work.
That's yeah. So yeah, that's the other yeah, option. Yeah, I'd like kind Volta to load it with the set number, um, because that's done up front. I mean, that's part of how when it loads BBSim or installs deploys BBSim. So I don't know how to override that, after the fact.
no, after that it's just sending a curl command that I can send it to you. But maybe we should see what's the easiest way is if we can override the status when we are installing it, then
Yeah, that I don't have a problem with. Yeah.
yeah. So then if everyone agrees to that, then I think we can just load by default like 16 ONUs in the status. And it depends on the test, because right now I think we are just dealing with only 16, because we haven't even gone until there. We just start with 1 2 right now.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'd like to know how you load 16 ONUs with BBSim after the fact. You can send me how to do that.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
So And then we can talk offline, which is the good way. I still prefer that during install is good, but I think when we are developing the test, maybe we can find a better solution.
Okay. All right. Well, I think I have a way to go now.
Okay. Any other items, Gil, from your side?
Not for the moment, but I have to redo my all of the kind of the work I did. So it'll be a little while before I've what I've done is I've canceled the code review, and I'll just have to put up another code review later once I've tested and made the changes accordingly.
Okay. Thanks, Gil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Suchitra. It's George Montano here. Just quickly to add and say hi to everybody. I'm going to be working with Gilles closely for the project management support. So just to introduce myself for those who don't know me.
Okay. Hi, George. Thanks. And nice to see you back.
Yes, thank you. Same here.
Hi Sujitra, this is Hema here.
Hey, Hema.
Yeah, actually I have one question on BBSIM. So, so when we enable the OLT, the connected ONUs are getting activated, right? So I just wanted to know, is there any option to enable that particular ONU alone?
I think that would be a question to Andy because Andy works more on BBSIM and TO.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
With the BBSIM, if we enable the OLT, the connected ONUs are getting activated, right?
Yes.
So is there any option to enable a single ONU?
Well, you could launch BBSIM with only one ONU, right?
Yeah, so yeah, if there is more than two ONUs in the test case, so if already one ONU is connected, so is there any option to create more ONUs with the existing OLT itself?
Oh, so dynamically change the number of ONUs. Is that what you're asking? Like you've configured the system with only a single ONU and now you've decided you want to bring up a second ONU?
Correct.
I do not think that the system supports that because you need to specify the number of ONUs when you install the BBSIM Helm chart.
But I think Andy, the Zdravko is, I think, adding APIs to do something like that. So if you look at the, well, actually, you'll have to look at the dashboard for BBSIM Brigade, and you may not have it actually. You don't have the dashboard for the BBSIM Brigade.
Oh,
but if you go to dashboards, yeah, and then manage dashboards and look at popular, and then select and star the BBSIM one, and or just click on it, and then you should have it. Right now, in progress, if you see, Zdravko has okay, I don't see it. That's KPIs, and there should be another one in. Okay, here, REST APIs from the older BBSIM to the new BBSIM. And I think these REST APIs let you do things dynamically in BBSIM. But I'm not 100% sure. But I think this is functionality. This is the kind of functionality that it's possible that Hema is asking for this one. So it's not there yet, Hema. But I think I think these APIs will let you do that.
But when you start the OLT with two ONUs, let's say, then is there a way to select an ONU and then enable or disable that particular ONU?
Yeah, I'm not completely sure. You'll have to ask in the VBSIM Brigade. Yeah, I'm not completely sure.
Okay.
Okay. And is there any bug for this BBSIM container is getting restarted, right? If we restart other containers, other pods.
I didn't understand the question. Is there a bug?
Yeah, when we restart other pods, this BBSIM is also getting restarted. That restart count is increasing.
So is there already
Okay.
a bug?
If you restart a container, it automatically restarts BBSIM?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware anyone has brought that up. But container restart should not be. Andy, have you heard of this?
No, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I don't think we've heard of this, but if you can create a Jira item where you specify what you're doing, then we can look at it.
Yeah, sure, Saurabh. We'll create on Jira on that.
Okay.
So otherwise, Hema, so can you please update like what are the stories that you guys are working on?
Yeah, Sanjitra. So one is that logger functionality. It is 2010.
Okay.
Yeah. So currently we are working on this. It will collect the container logs and it will validate the logs for expected and unexpected errors. So if unexpected errors are there, it will fail the test case. So this is one Jira, and other one 2023, which is on the Radius server. So after restarting the Radius server, we can check for the new authentication. So for this only, I was asking this BBSIM ON news. Currently, if we enable the OLT in BBSIM, all the connected ONUs are getting activated. So I wanted to test this functionality for the existing ONUs and new ONUs as well, the authentication one. So since currently that is not there, we are planning to implement a keyword which will restart the Radius server and check the new and add the OLT ONUs and check the authentication. We are planning to add this in the functional script. Should be fine, right?
In the functional, the one which that we shown.
Yeah.
Maybe not in that script. Probably it should be in a different file.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I need to understand more of you from what the keyword is doing, and then we can decide where it has to go exactly.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, and then I would suggest that probably when you're creating the keyword, if you can make it generic, not just radius, just a small keyword where you're restarting a particular container. And then the subsequent validations could be another type of validation or keywords.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Because there are other, if you see, there are other places where it talks about restarting other containers and then validating the behavior accordingly. So there should be a keyword which generically accepts a particular container type, and then it should try to restart it and then check the validation.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
That will be helpful then when we are writing for other scenarios as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but otherwise as well, if you have other questions, yeah, please just reach out to us on Slack as well. And then we are faster there as well, Slack or email.
Yeah, sure.
So, any status on the pod from your side, Infosys?
Yeah, setup is almost ready. Only testing is pending. So I'll update you on the Slack once it is ready.
Okay, thanks, Hema.
Yeah.
And another question, Hema, for regarding the pod setups, when you are building the pod, are you planning to? I mean, this is one of the questions that I was also asking you. Are you planning to integrate it with the ONF Jenkins to launch build?
Not now. No. We are planning for our local test only.
Okay, so you're building it automatically, or do you have another local Jenkins, or how are you planning to deploy the pods?
We need to look into that, Charitra. So we are planning for our local Jenkins, but I would need some help for that. Once pod is ready, maybe we can think of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually it makes it a lot easier if you use ONF Jenkins through a VPN, in terms of us helping you out in debuggability, in visibility into the tests and so on. It's greater collaboration if we have, if you use the ONF Jenkins. But if that's not possible starting up, then that's okay too. We can look at that down the road. But if
Sure.
it's a possible at all, then maybe we should just start by doing that, right?
Yeah, sure, Saurav. I'll check and come back on this. But still, we are missing of some device like a splitter, and also still we are working on the procurement part. So I can check with others, and I'll update this.
Okay, I also added a new document which Suchitra is showing right now, how to set up a physical pod. So this one has details about the hardware, the software that goes on it. There's a diagram also that shows how to connect things up. Sort of the diagram shows the ideal setup, not the minimal setup. And so if there are other people out there who we hope that can set up physical pods and join us in the test automation brigade, this would be a document to help them get started. And the location of this document is in the same folder, the test automation brigade folder that is under Voltha, right? So if you click on Voltha, you'll see a number of different brigade folders, and test automation brigade is one of them. And this is one of the documents in there, together with the test plan, of course, and the test strategy that we are using, and another new document that Andy is writing about how to write these tests with the new unification of the tests to work in both physical and virtual environments. So that's what Andy's writing. Andy, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I don't think I have much to add other than what you just said. I guess people have been looking for guidance about how to contribute new tests, and so we want to try to make the process of doing that as clear as possible, and map out all of the things that you should plan on when you're contributing tests. Right now, this document is just something where we're pulling together ideas. It's not really probably ready for public consumption, but I mean, it's in the public folder. So if you want to look at it and comment, please do. But yeah, we just started this yesterday, and we're just kind of brainstorming right now.
Right, right. So it's a work in progress, but it's okay. So that's understood. So what I would do is also, the other folks on the call, I would encourage you to look at the test plan where we have all the test cases in that spreadsheet, and pick one. And now that the tests are unified and things should be stable now, right? Um, we have that one example test case that works both in physical and virtual environments. Take a look at that, how that test case is written. Keep an eye on Andy's document to see, those are the guidelines that are evolving. And so pick one of the test cases and try it out, given that now you have an example that is stable, um, and works in both environments. So the other folks on the call, this is what I would recommend. Pick one, try it out, um, and uh, and and let us know over email or Slack when you have problems getting through the process, and that'll help us actually improve Andy's document also, because we learn what are the problems people are facing. Fair enough. Right. So in this spreadsheet, you see there is a column that says, which jobs have been picked up. Most of the tests in this have a JIRA item next to it on the second column. And then there is an assignment, which you will obviously see on the JIRA item as well. But, take some of these that are not assigned yet, assign it to yourself and attempt to do this. So a few of the tests will be very hardware specific, right? Those are tests that can really only be done on hardware, because they are looking at things like bandwidth and different gem port combinations with TCONs and so on. And those things you can't try in PBSIM. You can only try that in hardware when you have a hardware-based pod, right? But there are other tests that can be attempted on PBSIM. Specifically the one that involves with killing a container and bringing it back up, and just like Hema is doing with the Radius server. So these are things that can be attempted with the test framework and the unified tests that we are now writing, right? So pick examples like that and try them out by assigning the JIRA item to yourself. So that particular case of restarting containers, I think that one actually can get broken out into multiple different JIRA stories actually. Any questions?
So, Saurav, this is Andy. Just going back to the guidelines document that we were talking about a minute before. So I guess my intention here is to, after this is a little bit more complete, I'll present this at a future brigade meeting, and we'll have discussion about it, and people can, of course, comment on the document, and then we'll figure out an agreed upon set of guidelines for people that are contributing the tests. So
Sounds
for
good.
discussion at future meeting.
Sounds good. But are you saying that people shouldn't try to write tests while the guidelines are still being developed, or they can get started now?
No,
Oh no, absolutely, they can get started now.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
yeah, they can get started definitely, but please reach out to us before even submitting a patch, so we can just help them out.
Just
Right, that's what I meant. We are here to help.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, please be more frequent. Let's not keep this to a week-to-week thing. So please reach out, whether it's Slack, whether it's email. We're here to help. Anytime you have a problem, don't wait till these weekly meetings to ask your questions.
Just one thing about that you're kind of raising in this document of yours, Andy. You're proposing that the Volta pod test right now goes under integration folder, and that's because it covers, like you say, more components than just the single one. Is that something we should do earlier than later, or does it matter?
So I don't know if anybody else thinks that besides me.
Okay.
But just the point that I was bringing up there is that in my mind, and maybe this is just a terminology difference, but in my mind, functional tests operate like on a single component or module to verify the functionality of that module, and then integration tests operate on a set of modules, like for instance, the entire Voltha system plus BBSIM, in order to verify that entity as a whole is working as expected.
Yeah.
So for me, it was less confusing to call that the Volta pod test an integration test, but I don't really think it matters that much. If we want to just lump everything like that into the functional folder, then I can live with that.
Yeah, I would agree to just leave it in functional and then have other cases. Probably in future we will have soak testing and then we'll have scale tests, performance. So those will be, like a kind of different folders or suites where we can have new test cases getting added.
Okay. Well, it's something we can discuss then later. It doesn't have an impact, like you say, too much on what we have now. Okay. So we'll discuss this at a next brigade meeting, like you say.
Maybe because we still need to write up a lot in this. If we have something that could be presentable for next meeting, we can discuss. Maybe discuss partly next meeting on the important items so that people are not blocked. And then, yeah, we can decide for next week how we want to do that.
All right.
Anyone else has anything to bring up? Okay. I think we are done with the meeting then. That's it for today. Thanks everyone for your participation. Thanks for the contributions to test automation. We'll talk again next week.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
so thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.